Governor Walz, thanks for talking to me.
Good to be with you.
So, I can't tell what you want. I can't tell if you want to be the governor of Minnesota, you want to dip your toe again into national politics.
Yeah, well, I want a state that feels fair to everybody. I want to, again, have a state where our neighbors look out for one another. I want to see us as an optimistic people. And I guess what I'm searching for, and maybe the question you're asking for, is what role do I play in that? I'm proud of what our administration has done. I recognize that for people, we've been through a lot together, from a global pandemic to the murder of George Floyd to the assassination of a Speaker of the House and Melissa Hortman, not to mention just the daily governings of things that have to happen against a backdrop of a pretty dysfunctional DC. And so I'm guessing what I'm trying to figure out is I always viewed this as public service. Where can I best serve? If that's serving in a classroom, to do that. And I said it last fall when I had the honor to be on a national ticket. If you think I can help you, then pick me, but I'm not applying for a job. I'm just here to be what I can do to help. And so I think right now in this moment is, what can I best do to make people feel safe in Minnesota? What can I do to make sure that our economy is as strong as possible? What can I do to be a positive influence on this dialogue? Recognizing that sometimes that's hard. I've mentioned recently that there are certain people bring out the worst in me, and I have to guard against that. So
I can't help but take myself back to the morning that we learned that Melissa and Mark had been killed. And I saw you deliver that news that morning. And it felt like something changed in you.
Yeah, I said this one came pretty close to breaking me. From the professional side of things, there's probably no one I've ever worked with that understood this business better and was in it for the right reasons than Melissa Hortman. And just the senselessness of this, I don't know if anybody embodied the true citizen legislator, just humbleness, egoless, but with passion. And in those hours, recognizing that was gone, it was tough. I mean, this was a combination of both a personal friend and a political heavyweight, and just candidly, my most effective advocate and partner in getting the things that I think a majority of Minnesotans want to see in their state. And that was all gone in that moment.
What were you feeling at the time?
I think a combination, the deep sadness, the trauma, still trying to then, as these things happen, in that moment had just come through some really tense hours of not knowing how many more of our fellow Minnesotans had been killed, checking and not sure that John and Yvette were going to make it, and wondering in those early hours. And I think at that point in time, just a sense of a deep wound that was there, and just candidly the confusion and the senselessness of how did we end up with this in America? Because look, the courts will figure this out or whatever. Melissa was killed because she was a legislator who had certain beliefs and policies. That I firmly believe that with every piece of my being, which meant that this was a political assassination based on her policies. And I think it's hard to just say that's just an anomaly in time. This is a drumbeat and a march of this stuff. You cannot have elected officials saying they hate certain groups of people. You cannot have them saying that they don't matter or they're garbage and things. And that constant drumbeat of saying this, there are people out there that hear this and say, well, I'm going to go fix this.
Well, who's going to fix it?
We all are. We're all going to have to fix it. And I've said that, look, I think there's a difference when we talk about this. I will passionately debate and argue about access to medical and reproductive care, personal freedoms, food security, and things like that. That's very different than folks who push conspiracy theories about elections, about different things that happen, or about obvious falsehoods. And what I'm trying to figure out is how do you stay passionate about debating the issues and separate it from what has gotten into this, personal attacks and elimination.
And you have been a part of personal attacks before. You have doled some out.
Yeah, I've been pretty specific. I have doled them out, and I will just say, for whatever reason, billionaire, rich white guys making it more difficult for regular folks to live their lives. So I picked my fights with Elon Musk and with Donald Trump. I would argue you do not hear that here with legislators. I do not think you hear it here. I think those are probably the two very specifics that I've gone at. And my take on this is somebody has to push back on these people. Somebody has to stand up. And I will acknowledge, and I've said this, that Trump will bring out the worst in you. You want to fight? I talked about bullying him. Maybe it's the wrong word, but I will oppose him. I will push back. I will call out his lies, and I will try and do it. But I also think the situation we're in, that I have made very clear, in my opinion, on this, a road to authoritarianism, it's no time to be super nice to some of these people. I find no responsibility to be nice to authoritarians, but I also recognize that in the position I'm in, how that can bleed over.
Sure. I remember when Joe Biden ran for president the first time, he cited Charlottesville.
Yes.
They will not replace us as a reason, and
Yes.
that somebody had to stop it.
Yes.
Is there a part of you that hears a voice of former Speaker Hortman that says, keep going? Does she
Yes.
influence your decision?
Yes, yes, and it's a very insightful question. It's one, I think, based in humanity that people have asked. You know, you said you were going to decide that the murder of Melissa and Mark. Yes, it impacted me greatly, and it's impacting how I'm thinking about this. And it also is double-sided in this. I think you're right. There's a piece of me that says that this agenda she and I shared, it's one that I think the majority of Minnesotans share, and we're getting results from it to continue that on. I also just candidly will tell you, the idea of her not being here as part of that, I don't think, if people who don't know the ins and outs of this maybe would underestimate just how effective of a legislator this was. You don't have to like their politics, but I have come into a couple in my life, and Melissa Hortman was one of them. Nancy Pelosi is, I've seen that on a national scale, but I would argue that Melissa even figured out how to do it without the other side being, you know, quite so resistant to her, because it was hard not to. So I think about the stuff we have to do in a vision for Minnesota. I think there are issues that, you know, why would you run again? Because there's more things to do to implement. We were talking this child care issue. We're seeing that is becoming more and more prevalent. And the impact of what is being done in DC is going to come back on us.
I remember when the budget finally got done, she said, well, we'll be back here in the fall. We'll probably have to have another session.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time, and I share this only because it is honestly what occurred to me when I saw her say that, is I wonder if Governor Walz is thinking about asking her to be his lieutenant governor.
Well, I would share here, I haven't said this out publicly on this. I talked to her about being governor. I said, is it time? Am I able to do this? And we talked about it, because she said we need to keep our agenda going. And I talked to her, and I thought she would make a fantastic governor at some point. And she always with me, and you know, she's so humble and that. But I said, I think about it. I see people here, and I know what this job means. I know the skill sets you possess to be both a legislator and an executive. So she and I talked about that, and I'll just candidly say, I think she would have been a fantastic governor.
She would have had your support?
Yeah, I anything she would do, I was with her. I don't think there were very many times. I remember one time I crossed her a bit where I criticized the entire legislature rather than being specific, and she showed me how quickly that I understood that I was a co-equal branch. And she also said, I will never send you a bill that you need to veto. And you think about this, I believe there's never been a governor in Minnesota history. I have one veto in 7 years. That's because of Melissa Hortman, because she was able to get the deals done ahead of time.
So I sense from this is what you mean by that double-sidedness. There's a part of you that hears a Melissa Hortman saying, keep going,
yeah,
run again. And
that's exactly what she would say, I think. Not maybe necessarily run again, but keep going. I think she was with me and we talked about that. But yes, and then the other side of it is
working here without her.
Yep. It's pretty empty in here. And I think folks who come in here, I think everybody feels it a little differently. But myself and my team who work so closely by it, these young staffers that work here, I don't know if that's been taken into consideration, just how devastating it is for them.
Yeah. I only have a couple of more questions. I want to go back to it's almost been a year since how I describe it, you're shot out of a cannon from the roof of the Minnesota Capitol onto the national stage. And in Minnesota, there was this like, whoa, this is happening, and that's our governor. So pride, right?
Yeah.
Which then the election, and you and Vice President Harris lose the election.
Yeah.
We're unsure of what you're going to do, and that you've come back, but there seems to be a reaction from some Minnesotans that are like, he's gotten too big for his britches.
Yeah, I think that's a very Minnesota thing. And candidly, that's probably how I would think too. And I think understanding that of coming back down from it, reorienting why you're here. I viewed it as public service, that she drafted me into it. I was grateful to do it. I'm proud of what we did together. I still think we laid out a positive vision that, be very candid, 6 months later, I think a lot of people would take. With that being said, about coming back here and continuing to do what I think has been a good job in some pretty challenging situations, and then understanding where I can serve. So I understand that thinking. The idea that, are you going to focus here, you're going to focus there. I think in politics now, especially with a Donald Trump on the scene, it's very hard to have politics be all local. You know, that whole thing always is all politics is local. It feels to me like all politics goes through that, because that's what they've chosen to do. So I think trying to rebalance that or figure it out is what I'm doing.
So that's why still being president in some national programming and media and governing here, you want to be in both
Well, I have
places.
a national profile on things that I think we can talk about, and I feel somewhat of a sense of responsibility to go and do that. But I hear what people say. Someone asked me, what would you be doing if you weren't doing some of these town halls? I said, I'd be doing weekends and going to volleyball games and things. So I said, I'm trying to manage the both of them, but I think it's very difficult to separate the national from the statewide, especially with a higher profile. But I think the real question here is the focus on Minnesota, the focus on getting a budget done, the focus on what the future looks like, and that I'm unshaken on. I still feel very strongly that that's the direction we're going.
Is there a part of you worried about running for a third term because a third term hasn't been achieved by even the most popular of governors?
I never run worried about losing. I mean, if you run because you have a purpose of trying to improve things, you have a purpose in public service or whatever, and I trust the system, and you get out there. I think running for more terms, we don't have term limits in this. I think Minnesota are take turns people, but I think everything is different in the area of Donald Trump. I mean, the idea, look, I'm just going to say it. Everybody who's going to run on the Republican side is going to bend the knee to Donald Trump, exactly what he said. And it's very clear that these policies are unpopular, this latest bill. It's very clear that they're going to hurt us in very significant ways. And so I think after all this and seeing the damage they're done, it's not about the winning and losing, it's about how much can I add. And I think that's how I'm thinking about it. Am I part of the solution? I still believe strongly in this one Minnesota, but somebody said, well, we're as divided as we've ever been. Yes, and so is the country.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about fraud. A lot of that has come back on your shoulders, from Feeding Our Future to the most recent investigations CARE has been involved in that include Medicaid fraud. And why wasn't DHS checking? And that falls to you in the eyes of the voter.
They were checking, and that's why those people are in prison. Look, these types of frauds, and I've said it, bother me more than anything, because when those frauds are committed, it undermines programs that we are very proud of. We're a generous state. We're one of the most generous states. There's people that take advantage of this, and we need to be there. And one thing that I'm proud of is this last legislative session, we now have more tools to do this. Just to be clear, this is BCA that initiated all these and handed it and had told the FBI, come and help us. They've been great partners. The acting U.S. attorney is doing a great job. But for the first time now, like in these latest ones you had, I can stop payments on people. I could not do that before. If we would say, look, we know these people are committing fraud, let's quit paying them. We couldn't do that. There was nothing in law that allowed us to do that. And having the tools now, and we didn't get everything we needed. There are AI tools out there that we could get on the front end of this, but it's unacceptable. I'm as angry as anyone else. What I can tell you is if you commit these in Minnesota, we are going to catch you. You're going to go to prison, like dozens and dozens and dozens of these people had. But what I want us to do is go more upstream, so we're able to stop it more.
Did you support the Office of Inspector General?
I was indifferent to it.
Okay.
I think the experts in this believed it was fine, but I think there was a more specific and targeted way to do that, and that's what we're seeing now on this. I was fine with it if they'd have passed it and put it through, that would have been fine. But I think BCA and some of the folks who are the investigators in this feel like this is a streamlined. We have the folks that are in there, the experts. But if that was something the legislature wants to do and we're able to fund what we needed to, I would certainly accept it. I was a champion in Congress of the inspector generals. When the Bush administration tried to cut them, I'm the one who was fighting them back, especially in the Veterans Affairs place. So they're a good idea. I think here we just think of what the system was. We just needed some more tools on this. We needed some folks to have better eyes on it. And I think, again, I'm going to come back in this next legislative session. There is amazing work in the AI stuff that can target this stuff ahead of time. Because I know people are saying, who did you think they were giving these meals to? Where are the things out there? A lot of the things that are in law make it difficult to go after that. And look, the candidness of this is, are you targeting certain groups of people? No, what we're targeting is criminals, and that's who we're going after.
Why did Vance Belter write about you and his musings?
I have no idea. I don't know the guy. I appoint thousands of people to these. My team screens some signs off. Every morning I do decision memos on these folks, which is great. It's citizen participation. We have a lot of these boards. They give advice. They come in. It's not binding. But I have no idea. I think trying to understand what a mass murderer is thinking, someone who killed one of my best friends, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about him, but he obviously spent time thinking about me, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I ask it too in all seriousness because the acting U.S. attorney for Minnesota, when kind of asked the same question, was like, he has no connections to Governor Walz. He was not trained by the military. This is a non-issue, non-starter.
Don't know anything. And look, I guess they'll say what they need to get out of there, but I will be candid about this. A lot of talk about this. I'd like to see more stories about what Melissa Hortman did. I'd like to see more stories about Mark Hortman. I'd like to see more stories, which we got a little bit of it, and he's talking, is John Hoffman and a vet and Hope Hoffman. I mean, we have positive stories here, so if you need to fill some space or whatever, go out and find some real heroes. Don't find a mass murderer.
If the Hoffmans would want to talk to me and you can make that happen.
Well,
I have also
private.
reached out to
They
Mark
are
and Melissa's
amazing.
kids and said I am ready to talk.
Well, in
when you're
candidness,
ready.
Look, Senator Hoffman has a reputation of being incredibly tough. He is effective, and he is a tough negotiator up here. He's in my party, we're buddies, but he challenges all of us on this. And when I saw him a few days after this, had been shot 9 times, that's the toughest guy I've ever seen.
Did you hear what he said yesterday?
It was unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Standing up in that and just, so it's amazing. But I think, when they're ready, they will. But look, that's a family that's been traumatized. And you think about 2 parents laying themselves over the body of their child to save them while someone's shooting them. And then to bounce back on this. I will make my case on that. Well, I think there's ways to tell the positives in this rather than the ravings of a madman.
He said he would like to be referred to as 50 Senator because he believes he and 50 Cent are the only people that have been shot 9 times and tell the tale.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, he would like to be referred to that. So I don't know who's in charge of the nameplates here, how that would work, like Senator.
I kind of feel like if
Senator.
he wants it, he gets it now after that. So
no joke.
Yeah.
I have one more question,
Yeah.
and it has to do with, the trauma just in R1 Minnesota, and specifically in the people involved in working in this building.
Yeah.
We learned late yesterday afternoon that Senator Bruce Anderson has died.
Yeah.
Governor, I think by my count, there could be 5 or 6 or 7 special elections this year alone. And by all accounts, yet again, Senator Anderson, a tireless advocate for veterans.
Tireless. This is one I don't think these stories get told enough. I think, look, Senator Anderson, ideologically and politically, very, very different than me, but a great advocate and partner in the veteran space that I think you go talk to the veterans groups here. It's the one shining star of how we're able to still continue to work together, and to lose someone like that in that space, it's tough. I think the story here that's yet to be written, but will, and I think is encouraging, after all of this and the moment we're in, people are raising their hands and saying, I'll do it. I'll run. I'll put myself out there. So whenever I get asked about somebody, what do you think about so-and-so running? I don't care which side of the political aisle they're on. I'm excited they're doing it because it shows that the system is still resilient enough that people are willing to do it. Because right now, I mean, imagine you're going to put yourself out there. You watch how the politics are. You see the ads, let alone the security issue. And it's not just you, it's your family. When your children get death threats, it really challenges you of like, should I really be in this? Am I putting them through this? And people are still doing it because they know it needs to be done.
It's a special kind of person because I honestly can say when I went and looked at that memorial before I came up here, I would never do it.
Yeah.
I would never want for my son what Mark and Melissa's kids have now.
Yeah, it's and that's, people see the political side. That's their mom and dad. That's the Christmases together. That's the cooking in the family. And those who know up here, if you were around here, she had the wickedest sense of humor. I said this, and in that rotunda out there on that Friday, that was the first time in my life I was in the presence of Melissa Hortman where I did not laugh, or where I did not, even in the hardest negotiations and the most challenging times, the optimism that came off her, and she just had, and I think it was probably with everybody, but certainly with me, she just had that effect. And you could just feel the emptiness. And to think that those kids now deal with that. So Sophie and Colin are great kids. They've had to grieve very publicly. So I think we all in Minnesota have a responsibility to kind of help usher them through.